I mean, he needs it. So, cuando le tengo que preguntarle a Ana a ver si está en la lista. Because that would help.
I'm adding these things to my agenda.
That's true.
No, I don't know.
Sure. Hey, Blair, good morning. Schiller, good morning. All right. How many people do we have?
One.
Count.
Yeah.
One parent.
Mr. Bench will roll in here.
Oh, we do have, I think we do have forum.
Mr. Diaz online?
Yeah, Mr. Diaz, because we've got you, me, Fletchinger,
Oh, the whole staff here.
Blair, Kazar, Zod,
Yeah, let's do it.
Jesus. We are at forum.
Wow.
It's something. I mean, you might have the letter, but I don't understand.
Okay. All right, we're gonna get rolling. I'm sure we'll have one or two more people pop in as we get going. Hey, good morning. Our second to the last SAC meeting of the year. It's super exciting stuff. All right. Well, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna get this meeting up and running. So I'm gonna get a motion out there to call the meeting to order. Can I get a second? All right, we got a laugh. Okay, we got a laugh. All right, how's everybody doing today? Good?
Yeah, thank you.
No, I care. Congratulations, Adi. Today's Administrative Professionals Day. All right, so as always, good morning, Ms. Cam. As always, we're gonna review the minutes from our previous meeting, and that will be facilitated by the secretary herself, who's not recognized on Administrative Professionals Day, but only by the SAC. All right, Bletch.
Here we go. Okay, good morning all. Last time we were here, we talked about PTA recruitment, and Mr. Knappen had a wonderful idea about a committee-based organization. He just wants people to come and work and not feel that one has more power over the other, and that they don't have to work, one works harder than the other, but just the community, right? But we talked about that. The update of the stair decals, we talked about that as well. He's concerned that they will get peeled off, etc. But we're waiting on that. We had house inductions, field day, spring festival, 5th grade field trip to Kennedy Space Center. Some navigators will get to high five players in the entry tunnel. All that happened. And that was about it. Anything else?
Did you mention, the conversation with Miss Hitches?
Miss Hitches, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's here. So we have her pending. She had a proposal with Moby Max, and Mr. Bench had a couple of questions and suggestions. Could she use it the whole year? Could she use it with all the students? She wanted to purchase it now. The question was, could she use it for 1 month and then stop the membership and begin again in August? He was concerned that in the month of June and July, the kids were not going to benefit from the program. and then we were pending on Mr. Nappin's finding out, first of all, if it was a
District
vendor
approved,
approved,
yeah.
district approved vendor, and second of all, she was in charge of finding out if she could stop the membership, etc. I don't even know why I'm looking here. That's not here. I'm just remembering.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, I think that was it. That was the major.
All right. Do we all feel good about the minutes from the previous meeting? Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
All right. If not, then can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
To approve the minutes.
All right. And Blair, it sounds like, were you seconding?
Yes, I was.
Okay, great.
Yes,
All right.
Second.
All right. So we didn't hear any concerns, so we're going to approve the minutes, and we are going to get this party started. All right. Ms. Torres has this awesome agenda. Do you want to go through the agenda, Torres, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can go through the
Okay.
agenda. We've already called to order and approved our minutes, so we're going to move into our principals update where Mr. Nappins is going to be going in depth about the 2023-2024 budget for the school year, along with some quick testing reminders as we do move into the testing month of May. We do want to review Ms. Hitch's SAC grant just one final time before we approve or move forward with it. And then we'll continue with community involvement, school-wide events, a little update from PTA, pushing through to that final month with all of our very stacked calendar. Any open discussion before we adjourn before our meeting in May?
Sweet. All right. Well, I'm gonna jump into the budget, but before I do, I'm gonna mix up the order just a little bit. I'm just gonna talk about testing really quick first, just because it'll be a way quicker item. Man, you guys hopefully know we've been talking about it for the last couple SAC meetings. I'm sure that the teachers have sent out some correspondence. I know that the district has sent out reminders about testing coming up. So this is a giant year. This is a giant time of year. I was just talking to a second grade teacher yesterday, the day before, and this is a really cool opportunity this year too in kindergarten, first and second grade, because we actually have a formative state test this year for our primary kiddos that historically we haven't had in the past, right? Usually we just use iReady, which is a digital platform. It's a giant vendor. And although it's aligned to the standards, it's not specifically designed like the assessment that they're going to take next week. So super excited to see kind of the data that populates from that, see how awesome our teachers did with those kiddos. And then obviously we've talked about this, throughout the years, and the big nugget is going to be grades 3, 4, and 5, because that is how our school grades calculated. We talked really quick about how this year is unique because only proficiency counts towards a school grade, right? So that means students, on our testing scale, the performance scale, bless you. 1 is the lowest level and a 5 is the highest level. And in order to be perceived as proficient in our state, you have to have a 3, 4, or 5. Bless you. So a 3, 4, or 5. So our goal is to get as many kids in grades 3, 4, and 5 to get a 3, 4, or 5 in reading and in math, right? So there's no writing this year, and there's no learning gains because this is a new test, so we don't have any prior year data. So we're just hammering home proficiency. Our teachers, man, let me tell you, our teachers are just absolutely working really hard. I mean, this and even Mr. Mack, our coach, has commented, and I noticed too. Ms. Kao and I walked class on Monday. Man, teachers just coming in with an awesome sense of urgency this week. The kids are dialed in, and man, in a sports reference, I feel like we're peaking at the right time, right? So we're getting ready for the test next week, and so we have reading on Tuesday, we have math on Wednesday, and then science for 5th grade only is the following week. So, the only thing I'd want to throw in there, and Ms. Zup and I are going to do a recorded message and throw it out on Dojo today, is just remind your kiddos of how important this is. Not to stress them out, but just so they take it seriously and they're not just filling in boxes. But it's just a good understanding of it's a way for them to show what they know and what they've learned this year and areas that we need to continue to work on as a school. So make sure they're getting a good night's sleep and if they're a big breakfast eater, to get that breakfast in the morning. Some kids don't eat breakfast, and I understand that too. But sleep is like the absolute like ultimate performance enhancing drug, right? So make sure they're getting plenty of sleep, plenty of rest. So all right, so that's really all I have to say about testing. I know the teachers have been pretty vocal about stuff that they need to cover too. So any questions about testing? Any questions about testing? All right. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the budget. All right, so I went back and kind of looked about how I did it last year. I don't want to like bog people down. I don't want to bog people down with this. I want to give a pretty good snapshot or an overview of what our budget looks like, positions that we've purchased, and then also like dollars that we've kind of saved as we closely monitor grade levels. Okay, so wow, it's interesting. So our budget actually went up this year about $750,000. So it's crazy to think that like annually this year we were allocated like $4.5 million to run the school. I told my parents that they said they're trusting you with $4.5 million. But anyways, so but it's not all that's not all staff, right? So there are things that go into that, right? There are things like plant management, right? So although we don't directly pay the utilities, like I don't get a utility check here for electrical and things like that. All that money is automatically calculated initially up front. So, but there is a giant portion of the $4.5 million that goes to staff, right? So what a teacher makes and what a teacher costs are two different things, right? So for me to purchase an instructional position is like $77,000. Now, a lot of teachers don't make that much money, right? And it's basically what that is that's salary and fringe, right? So like that includes their benefits package, retirement, things that go into it. So that's their salary plus all their benefits. So, well, like where do we get all this money from? So one is our general budget, right? Like it's our general fund, and this is money that's based on the number of students we have here. And I won't get into FTE, but based on students are sent in a general education setting, like a regular second grade classroom, like Ms. Grogan's class, or students who are in an ESC unit, right? Like they generate more funding, okay? But all that comes into part of our general fund. We also receive money from IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Act, right? And that goes to support or supplement some of the students that we have here with disabilities. And then I'll explain that really quick. And then also there's still ESSER dollars. So that's CARES Act money that's still out there. 2 years ago, there was an absolute insane amount of ESSER dollars. Last year, there were still a lot of ESSER dollars out there. And then this year, schools like ours, because it's amazing, just totally got handcuffed with ESSER this year, where we don't nearly have the presence of ESSER or CARES Act money that we've had in the last few years, which is okay. So we do have like money that we put away for subs. We put about $90,000 every year away for subs. Well, I should say that last year we did $60,000 and we spent more than that. This year we've already spent more than that. So this year we've allocated about $90,000 for subs. About $10,000 for copies and about $20,000 for supplies, right? So that would be anything from things that teachers need in the classroom, paper, like copies, like just copy paper itself. Copies, when I say copies, so the giant copy machines that we have, we don't own those, thankfully, but we lease those machines. So that company comes in and service them whenever they break. They service them regularly just to make sure that they're up to speed, and they're never up to speed. So, but we try. All right. So I'm going to do this in kind of 3 chunks. I'm going to talk about classroom teachers, and then I'm going to talk about classified positions, which are non-classroom personnel, and then non-instructional personnel, and then I'm going to talk about our non-classroom instructional personnel, so like our coaches. Anybody who works in the school but doesn't actually teach a class face-to-face every day, okay? All right, so here we go. So we have 4 ESE teachers, and that spans everything from a teacher who is in the unit. I'm not going to go through specific names just yet, but teachers who teach in the unit to like a ESE teacher who provides direct services in the classroom, right? So like maybe a student has a learning disability that they need support with reading or support with math, okay? All right. We know we went back and forth about this all year. We're thankfully that we were able to bring in the two-way dual language VPK class next year. So that'll be 20 students. All right. Cool thing about this is that VPK, like just like Primrose, or I shouldn't say Primrose, I don't know, like a VPK down the road, like half day is free. So you'll see those signs that say free VPK. Well, half of this is paid through the Early Learning Coalition. All right. Now we're going to run a full day program because two-way dual language encourages that, right? So that they have a full day of instruction. They still get naps. Like it's a pretty cool little model. But so because they only pay for half of it, we pay for the other half. All right. Okay. 4 kindergarten teachers, and like this one always has room for fluctuation because kindergarten projections are that. They're projections. We never know exactly how many kindergarten students that we're going to have, right? Because we advertise, like Ms. Gauthier, our school registrar, does a really good job of kind of advertising in local daycares to remind teachers of, or remind parents that if you have a student who's going to be school age next year and you live in Endeavor Zone, that this is your school. But right now, the way we have it set up, I think we have 71 predicted kindergartners next year. Now, listen, that could fluctuate. Like when I first got here, we had close to 100. Okay, but because schools are relieved and rezoning, we're at about 71. First grade, you'll see that I purchased 4, but that number is very fluid and it could be upwards of 5. So when I close out about the contingency or money that we have set aside just in case, that number could grow to 5. Okay. 2nd grade 5, 3rd grade 5, 4th grade 5, and 5th grade has 6. All right. Special area teachers, we have 3, art, music, and PE. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Yeah.
Are we going to continue to have the VPK or the pre-K units? Like
good question. So that falls in here. Thank you. Yes. So in there we have 2. So the classes that Ms. Torres is talking about. So we have currently this year, we're piloting with the district 3 pre-K ESE full day units, right? We have 3. There are 10 kids in each unit. Very unique environment in those classrooms. Been very challenging to staff this year. We have 1 teacher right now who's certified. We have 1 substitute. And then because we've been unable to fill them, we have Miss Kateria Rodriguez. Some of you know her, most of you know her. She's done a fantastic job. She's actually working in the capacity of a teacher in one of those classrooms too, doing a great job. So Torres asked a great question. Are we going to continue to have those? Yes, but we're going on to 2. We're sending one of them to Hunters Creek Elementary in exchange for, it's like a trade deal. We're going to take all of their half day pre-K kids. So like Miss Saleta here is our pre-K half day. Now, like I use the terms pre-K and VPK separately because they are separate, right? VPK is a federally funded program, and pre-K is a program that the school and the district endorse. Okay. So yeah, so we're gonna get half of those. Okay. Good question. Good question. Any other questions?
VPK is funded by what? I'm sorry.
VPK is funded by the Early Learning Coalition, which is federal dollars.
Thank you.
Good question, Torres. Good question. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. So like I'm not going to go into it, but those students, the way that they're staffed, right? Like Hunters Creek is adding a unit and we're losing one. So it's good. It's good. Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're
I was
good.
like, are we going?
You're good. You're good. I'm sorry. All right, classified. So this is a big classified staff, more than we probably had here in a long time. We still have our secretary bookkeeper, Janet Rodriguez, secretary administrative professionals day, shout out. Registrar Mazzotti. We are going to have one school clerk next year. All right. We're going to have one school health assistant. All right. We have 8 severely handicapped paras. All right. And we actually have those. And I will tell you this right now, this position is extremely hard to hire because not only do they have to have 60 credits, so they could have an associate's degree or just 60 credits, but they also have to pass this physical strength test in order to be eligible. And so we're fortunate to have those, be able to retain them. 2 bilingual paras, 1 Portuguese speaking, 1 Spanish speaking. ESC program assistants, we have 2. We're going to keep 2. One of those is paid through IDEA, so we don't have to pay for that. That's awesome. 1 program assistant we have currently. We're going to keep that. We have 1 PE para, which we will continue with next year. VPK, 2-way dual language paraprofessional. This is a full-day position. Half of that also is paid through the Early Learning Coalition. That position is currently vacant, so we don't have anybody. It hasn't been advertised yet. But if you know anybody who wants to work with 4 and 5-year-olds that are working in a dual language environment, really cool. So we have a TSR. We have a new TSR, Mr. Carlos Lewis. I think we met him last week, right? He's fantastic. We share him with Palmetto. That's the district model that elementaries. We have the option to purchase it. We've never done that. Elementaries traditionally don't do that. So we split him. So he's here 2 days a week and then every other Friday. SRO. This is good that you guys know this. I think we talked about this last year. We pay just a flat $40,000 of the SRO salary. I don't know what our school resource officer makes, but like in our district line item, in our budget, in the site model, it just shows that we fork over $40,000 for the SRO, which is awesome. We have 4 custodians. 1 is our crew leader, works in the afternoon. We have 1 resident custodian, Mr. Aldo, who opens the building every day and is here till 2 o'clock, and then just 2 general custodians. All right. Not a lot of changes here. You will notice that currently we don't have a school nurse for next year. All right, and I'm going to explain why. It's really important that everybody knows why. The school nurse position, all right, is an LPN at minimum, right? So we're just being very honest here, is that like the district doesn't pay an LPN what an LPN could make at Nemours or Osceola or Advent Health, whatever, right? So unless we had one of the most amazing school nurses ever, forever, Nurse Ellis, but she was very unique, right? She was invested here because her kids had gone through here. I mean, she lived like basically across the street. So she wasn't making what she could make in a traditional like nurse role. So we actually have a great school nurse right now, but Nurse Cat doesn't work for us. Because we can't pay her, like the district has employed a temp agency, essentially, like a staffing agency to staff these school nurses. So Nurse Cat's in a great position because she's probably making what a nurse should make through this temp agency. But that's not a model the district's going to support next year. And even when Nurse Cat was out on maternity, and she's fantastic. I mean, she's fantastic. But when she was out on maternity, there would be days we didn't have a nurse. We didn't have anybody, right? So it was a giant challenge. We had a nurse the last 2 years because the district required it because of like the COVID era, post-COVID era. Next year, they're not going to require us to have a nurse. So we're going to make a shift to a school health assistant. So I think financially, trying to be a good steward of the budget, like it's a good move for us. All right. Okay. Any questions about that?
What do you call that position again?
School health assistant. Or a shop, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions about the classified personnel? Yeah.
I'm just like program assistant and
Yeah.
I can't think of what that is.
All right, good. So I'm just gonna be very transparent. This is Shimori right here.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I'll tell you right now, like we do not have like a discipline problem at our school. We've had some behaviors this year that are more unique to our school than we've ever had. So what I did this year was rather than hiring a dean, right, which is something that is traditionally filled at like a school that has a lot of discipline issues. And we're talking about discipline and behavior and two different things. And I think that should be a SAC conversation for next year to really define the difference and what each means. But that's Mr. Shimori. He next year he's going to go from 6 hours to 8 hours, so he won't be leaving early in the afternoon. Right now, he's committed to dramatic ed, which is kind of where we found him. He's fantastic too. But he is going to be with us full time next year. Yes.
How about the police? Who pay him? Or
Yeah, that's a good question. So we pay for, I would assume we pay for half of him. I don't really know. I know that like we're required to pay $40,000 worth of deputy reg, which I think is well worth it. So I don't know if they pay the other half or if it's another third. I don't know. All I know is that we're required, like it's not even an option to buy an SRO. Like we have an SRO, so school resource officer. Good question. Good question. These are all good questions. So yeah, so these grow just so this is Shimori, right? So I mean, he can handle student discipline. He's going to work. We have a model that we're working on for next year to be a little more proactive. But then we also have the ESC program assistants, right? So that's currently Zora Davis, and who Zora is IDA funded. We were able to pay for her when we got the pre-K units, and then also
Kateria,
thank you. Yep. Who's working as a teacher right now. Okay, good questions. All right, next slide. Here we go. Wow, the first bullet point, you're going to notice, we're going to have an assistant principal next year. It's something that our deputy superintendent, Dr. Armbruster, is very passionate about. That if a school is allocated an assistant principal, that they indeed purchase an assistant principal. So in years past, we had an option. Like last year, we had an option. We elected not to do it. This year, we don't have an option. So I don't know who that person is. I don't know the hiring process. I don't know how involved they'll be in the hiring process. That information hasn't quite been shared with me. So we will have an AP next year. That's exciting. So non-instructional classroom personnel. So these are all people that work outside the classroom but are instructional personnel. Okay. So we have an instructional coach for ELA. We have an instructional coach for math. We have a staffing specialist. We have an ECS testing coordinator. So ECS is ESOL compliance specialist to make sure all of our students who are language learners are cared for. And then from like a testing perspective, that they go through these two roles have a really strong relationship because there's a lot of compliance tied with them. School counselor, behavior specialist, really cool. Our behavior specialist, Ms. Murphy, is paid through IDA/ESSER, so we don't have to pay for her. That's awesome. And then we have 2 resource teachers, 1 math, 1 ELA, and then 1 media specialist. So we are going to have a media specialist next year, which is different. Let me have it. I know you guys have questions. So let me tell you this right now. So these 2 positions right here, this year and last year, were funded by ESSER, and they were referred to as Tier 1 teachers. The Tier 1 teaching position is still alive in certain schools throughout the district, but it is schools that probably more characteristic of like a Title I school, schools that have some huge academic deficits, which we won't get into our opinions about that, but we're not given these positions. So I made the decision to purchase these positions this year, for next year, because they directly impact student achievement. Next year is going to be a huge role too, because we'll have learning gains next year, right? So like we'll have data from this year for next year, and we need to make sure that we're growing in all these areas. Okay. All right, what kind of questions do you have? You may be asking about who these positions are. Like I haven't notified some of these people yet. Like, and I've even told the teachers, the classroom teachers, what my anticipated grade level that they'll be teaching next year. I want to get that out to them as soon as possible, but I also want to make sure we get through testing. So you don't really see names attached to these positions just yet. And some of them are not even filled yet. Some of these positions are still fluid. So all that being said, so we have our classroom teachers, we have our classified personnel, and we have our non-classroom instructional personnel, plus our assistant principal. So what's that mean? Like how much money have we spent and how much money do we have for next year? So what we do, what I've always been taught, and I think there are different schools of thought, is to make sure that you make sure you have your positions bought, right? And you make sure that you have contingency set aside for a couple reasons, right? So we have a contingency. So last year, we were bringing about $200,000 into next year, right? That's money that we try to be good stewards of the budget to save, just to make sure that if we had to buy positions, we could, right? So moving into next year, we're going to have about $130,000-ish in our contingency, right? Now, you heard me say at the start of this that a classroom teacher costs about $77,000, okay? So our goal is to make sure that we have enough money for at least one classroom teacher if we have to buy a teacher, okay? And here's the other part. So we anticipate, like the district gives us projections based on our student enrollment. So they have a district demographer. There's a guy, his name is Thomas Moore, who just looks at like birth rates. He looks at like rent. He looks at like utility bills. And with all that being said, he gives us a projection like, hey, this is how many kids you're going to have in first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. All right. We look at that and then we look at our current enrollment. So if they say, hey, listen, next year you're going to have 100 fifth graders, but we look at right now and we only have 87 fourth graders right now, I would ask him, I'm like, hey, where are these other kids coming from? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. That's just a hypothetical, right? So we know, like, I take all these things into consideration, right? We know we're expected to have X amount of students. If we don't have that many, then after the first like 12 to 15 days, the district's going to come back and say, hey, listen, you're expected to have 600 kids. You only have 580. Each one of those kids are worth like $7,000. You're going to have to pay the district back. So they don't say, hey, better luck next time. No, you have to, they literally will come in and take money out of our account, like out of our savings account, out of our contingency, right? So we always have to prepare for that. Now, the good news is that, you know, the only year that ever happened was my first year here when we were in the pandemic and kids stayed home. We just like, kids were off the grid. So that was a challenge. The good news is if we are over that mark, like let's say it's 600 and we have 610 or plus 10 kids, then they would come in and give us an additional, you know, $70,000. All right. Now we get more money, then we make good decisions. Like we try to be good steward of the budget and stash that money away in case we need it. Or if there's a need, because we have 10 more kids and that puts us over in like first grade, then we go and buy a position. We go buy a teacher in first grade. It's hard to like take a lot of risk this time of year. I try not to do that, just so you guys know. Some principals are different. Like not to over purchase at this point and then find out that like the worst thing that can happen, I think, from a financial perspective is to have an IOU to the district. So then we could be operating in the red all year. And I don't want to do that. Because at the end of the year, like when the budget rolls out for next year, that they take that right away. So if we owe them $70,000, they take $70,000 right away before our budget's even released. So talked a lot about money. I've actually talked way longer than I anticipated. What I'll do is listen, if you have questions or specific questions and you want to ask right now, you can. Or if you want to stay back and just pick my brain a little bit, we'll gladly do that too.
There are 2 online questions.
Yeah, let me have
it. One person online wants to know what will be the process if a child doesn't feel good or gets hurt in school since a nurse is not required. And that's where they will be taken first before contacting parents.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I think I know what the question is. So we have a school health assistant, right? And then what we're going to do next year is we're going to make this more of like a rotational model in there. We're going to make sure that everybody in the front office, Sadi, Janet, Skander, Lilium, that they're all trained, because the district provides a training for a school health assistant, right? So that is like a basic understanding of general first aid, and then like what to do in emergency. I'm gonna tell you what our policy is right now. Like, Nurse Kat's a phenomenal LPN, but like our policy always right now is a kid has sustained a substantial injury, we call 911. So that policy won't change, right? Like, so we'll administer first aid, but it's always been my belief that like if when in doubt, call 911. Like, there's no harm in calling 911, right? Like, I would rather call and not need them. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. So like, hope that answered the question, but like, basic first.
There still will be somebody on campus to look over, to check
Absolutely.
out the student before, and also calling home.
There'll be someone who's dedicated to the school clinic at all times, right? Because we do still have kids that need to be administered medicine. And we do have some kids with like some minor health needs that can be addressed with the school health assistant. Really good question.
And then another question was regarding the VPK units.
Yeah.
Where will these be located?
Like, where in the building?
They're here at school in the building, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be in the building. So if the question is like, are they going to be in a portable? They're not going to be in a portable. Like, my goal right now, so everybody can hear me. My second grade people in the room. And my goal is
out the nose.
My goal is not to have any grade level classes in the portables next year. We don't have any this year. I don't see us with a level of growth that will require us to do so. But we may do some shuffling, right? We may do some shuffling to make sure, like, the first floor may be reorganized ever so slightly, just to make sure that some of the classrooms are in better proximity to each other. So, but yeah, so VPK will be in the building. I can assure you that. Like, they won't be in a portable. If that's the question, I can't tell you exactly where. I have a good idea, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? I'm sorry, I talked a long time, but I wanted to be as transparent as possible without just telling you actual teacher names just yet. We do have a couple teachers coming in from another school. They've already signed their paperwork. We have a couple teachers who are leaving. We have one who's moving closer to home, and we have a teacher going to another school. Never easy decisions, but also sometimes necessary. And so I'm excited for next year.
Yes,
Okay.
it was the portables is what they were wondering.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you nailed
Yeah.
it.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right, listen. So my last thing is we are celebrating Administrative Professionals Day today, but we are all celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week this week, 2 weeks early, because we didn't want to meddle with testing. We wanted teachers to be able to relax and enjoy. We had an awesome lunch on Friday to start through Dramatic Ed. We had breakfast yesterday morning, and then PTA showered the teacher, all staff, I should say, with some Amazon gift cards yesterday. We're going out to an off-campus event this afternoon for some food and bowling and axe throwing or whatever, and then a couple more things. We have a pep rally tomorrow for our students getting ready for testing, so make sure they wear their house shirts. That's it. That's all I got. I'm done talking.
Continuing on with the agenda with the school improvement plan, I know Mr. Nappins, you wanted to say the vinyls that we had spoken about really quick.
You want me to jump in real quick?
Yeah, really quick,
So I wasn't going to talk anymore. So listen, we've been talking about this for two SAC meetings now. The vendor came out. The vendor gave us like a rough quote of $2,000. Also, they came out. They measured. They're going to put 3 sample vinyl strips up to see if it's what we like and to see if it's durable enough to our standards. And they're going to do that before we obviously make any type of financial decision. I'm just going to be honest. Like, if this isn't squared away before our final SAC meeting next month, then we'll probably just look for a way to fund it just purely through the school. That way it's there for next school year. So it looks awesome when the kids come in. So that's an update on that.
And I know we had spoken about Miss Hitch's grant that we had kind of put on hold for the next for this meeting. We did find out that her MOBI is OCPS district approved, but she is unable to cancel the subscription once she begins it. So, and I had let her know that she did not need to be here for this meeting, so that's why she is not here today. Because I also know she's got meetings and morning duty as well. But she did want me just to ask, is this something that she can have purchased for August to run the $175? So that is, I just wanted to make sure we had the correct wording from where we left the meeting last week, what we had voted on. Because I know we did say it was a contingency to have presentations at the end, but that's why I was waiting for everybody here to convene.
We're asking if we're okay with her doing that in August?
Correct.
I say yes. It's district approved and I've used it before. It's a good program. It's gonna help her with the kids, absolutely.
Did she tell us, I'm trying to remember, how many licenses did that entail? What?
I would think it was the one license.
For the
She could have
school?
done separate subjects or one license
For
altogether.
her, well, yeah.
But how many kids were able to use it? That was my question. Because it's something we could use over the summer. Like we're gonna have a ton of kids here this summer for the
When
month
we
of
used
June.
to use it, it was based on the teacher, so my class, period. It was something like class kids,
So it would work
yeah.
for her group.
Exactly, and I don't even, if they have so many licenses, I don't think it goes up to 50, you know what I mean, like a person. But again,
Where does the rest of the funding come from? Because the 175 won't cover the full year. At the price that she mentioned last time. So
Because I know she had requested, because I know it had come up earlier this year about teachers requesting things. And it said if they went and discussed it with Mr. Nappins, they would be able to. So that might be something she could supplement cost by going and speaking.
Yeah, I mean, what was the cost of it again? I'm trying to remember. I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry.
That says $29.99 a month. No,
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Right, it's on back there. Yes.
175
For the year?
for her ESC classroom.
She's asking for
well,
that as
that's
the
what
grant,
she's asking for.
but it says
Yeah.
29.
Oh,
Yeah, the 30, I guess she wanted to do it by month,
Okay,
the
so-
$30 per month.
Yes, $30 per month and $14.99 a month for one subject. So all subjects, $30. That's $300.
Yeah, Zadi's head of the cafeteria.
So the question is, if we give her 175 and you're looking at $30
$180.
a month, you're gonna be looking at $360.
Was it 175 and then $30 a month?
No, she was asking for $30 a month.
We capped the grants at 175, so she's asking for 175. The question is, where does the other funding come from for the rest of?
Oh,
It could be.
and that's why Torres said like the school could supplement the rest of the cost.
Yeah.
Or maybe if she's gonna use the teacher funds that she's in.
I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem supplementing it. She said she'd used the program previously.
Mm-hmm. She had used it previously.
I'm fine with the grant. Just don't want her paying for it out of pocket.
No, she won't have to pay for it out of pocket. That won't. Like the school would pay. So if we're saying 175 bucks. So how many months is that? Quick math. 5 months.
5 months,
5
because we would need
6
100 and
months.
about 180 for the full 6
And
months.
then I guess the question is, will she be able to use her full ESC roster, right? Because it's for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, what she could do is she could use the 175 grant, start in August, and that would carry her through the end of the school year, or the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
And then apply
Again,
next year for
Yeah.
another grant to carry her through the rest of the school year.
I wonder if there was like an annual cost. Was there like I know it was.
I just messaged her to find out.
It'd be interesting if there was like a price break if you purchase like an annual subscription as opposed to just paying monthly. Yeah. I can just say this with confidence that from the school's perspective, from the school's end, that that the cost to finish out the year could like I do not want anybody to pay for a subscription out of their own pocket. So that's something that definitely the school could supplement. So
I make a motion to approve the grant.
okay,
All right.
Second. Should we do like
Beginning in August.
Beginning in August.
Beginning in August, that takes her through the calendar year.
Okay, great. Congratulations, Miss Hitches.
Yay! Community school-wide events. It was a fun month of April. As you can see in the photos, students celebrated a house lunch, meaning instead of sitting with their grade level tables by their teacher, students were able to sit by houses to build community within the school. Kindergarten roundup happened, and we are still currently registering kindergarten students for the 2023-2024 school year. They had our VPK dual language information session. Once again, that is, I believe, first come, first serve on registration.
For VPK.
For VPK,
Yeah.
for the two-way dual language VPK. First come, first serve on the.
Once we're at 20, we're full. So that we do create a waiting list in case like people back out. So.
We are already full.
No, we're not full. No, we're not full yet.
Not full yet, so
But
still
it'll
a
happen
chance.
really fast. Like I think we have like 15 already. So.
And PTA hosted a Solar Bear Spirit Night hockey game. Little update from PTA. They had some photos of the students in the tunnel being able to high five the players as they came up onto the ice. They're currently celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week. Once again, 2 weeks early, just because of testing. So we're all feeling very appreciated this week. But the big thing for PTA is once again bringing up that they are in need of PTA board members who are interested in leading the charge and organizing families for future Endeavor events. So if you are interested, you can email PTA at eesptanavigator@gmail.com if you are interested. Also, if you want to volunteer at any PTA events taking place towards the end of the year, like assisting with the 5th grade party and ceremony and all of that jazz, getting involved with our school. As you can see, it is going to be a very busy month of May with 2 long Wednesdays. Just so everybody knows, next Wednesday, May 3rd, is a long Wednesday due to testing. So there will be testing on campus next Wednesday, along with the following Wednesday. So we have back-to-back long Wednesdays, the one on May 10th being Hurricane Makeup Day.
That's brutal. That is.
Back-to-back long Wednesdays, so be prepared for that the first 2 weeks of May. But then May 10th will be the final long Wednesday, and for the last 2 weeks of the school year, we will do regular dismissal on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Up here, you can see that there's quite a few tests taking place beginning next Tuesday with fast testing. Tuesday, Wednesday, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Thursday, Friday, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. You've got your 5th grade testing in there. There's iReady diagnostics taking place for our kindergarten through 2nd grade students. Common final exams for 5th grade students for art, music, PE, and health. But in there will be kindergarten bridging ceremonies, 2nd grade going on their field trip. Yes, we will. Yes, Crystal, I see your message. There will be, we can post these dates on Class Dojo as a reminder for everybody. And then pushing towards the end of the year with May 26th being the last day of school.
1 month from today.
1 month from today, everybody.
Holy
we are
cow.
1 month away from the last day of school.
That's insane.
But in there is our next SAC meeting on May 24th, which we do invite all of our SAC members and anybody attending to join us, because that is more of a celebration as opposed to a formal meeting celebrating the end of the year and all the achievements.
Are we gonna have any business that day?
I do not believe we will have any business that day, but we still will have, in case there are any questions, we will still continue to have the question comment open forum like we have right here. Anybody questions, comments that they want to bring to the table, about here, Endeavor, the budget, testing, staffing.
The only purchase positions are the math and the reading.
Say what?
The only purchase, like extra purchase positions are the math and the reading.
Resource.
Or the resource.
Yeah. So the behavior specialist was a position that was funded by IDEA. We have the instructional coaches, we have the ESOL compliance and staffing. Hey, listen, real quick. So while if there are any questions drummed up, man, I hope that everybody can come next the last meeting of the year to close things out. We're gonna have a breakfast that's gonna be catered by Dolphin Catering, an awesome dude who just catered our breakfast and a few other meals of ours this year. Local guy, Chef Will, he's fantastic. Hey, so PTA, I did bring, like, I sent out a distress signal maybe last month or the month before, and maybe like a little bit of panic, but like we have such an amazing PTA right now and have had since I've been here. And, you know, we're just in kind of one of those perfect storms right now where Miss Hutchinson, who's been our president last year and this year, so for the last 2 years, you know, her son's going on to 6th grade, so she's not going to be, I'm sure she'll be around, but she won't be as present. And that's, you know, listen, she's definitely served her time. So when I was like, when I'm throwing around ideas for like a new model, I just like, you know, the PTA is so great. We have 5 or 6 ladies who do 90% of the stuff, and it is challenging. And I think that, like, if we can come up with a model that's a little bit different, that doesn't require so much from just a small group of people, that we can spread out the responsibilities a little bit, just to make it a little more enticing. Because I mean, listen, they worked their butts off. Like, they were here all day yesterday, hanging out with teachers, sharing gift cards, sharing snacks. Like, you know, that's a full day commitment. So, and they do that stuff all the time. Like, they're amazing. So, I am interested in kind of just looking at a different way to kind of not make it so taxing on such a small group of people. So that's all it was. Listen, appreciate you guys. Any questions online? We went long today. If you want to stick back and ask questions about the budget, you're more than welcome to do so. But I'm going to motion that we call this meeting to end.
A second.
All right. Have an awesome time. Make sure you're here next month. Miss Hitches got the grant. You're gonna miss? Come on! No way! Then we're rescheduling.
Yeah, we're going on my wife and I are going on a trip.
Oh, that's definitely